Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Sam Maggi, the culinary mentor and chef with Basics Market. We're going to make a super easy and fun fruit tart today. We're going to use some seasonal berries, and we're making a really nice, simple crust to hold all these berries together. Just a few ingredients and no pie plate or pan needed with this one. We're going to create our own pie plate. If you have any questions as we go along, just type them into the Q&A box. Let's get rolling. All right, so as I mentioned, this is a really simple crust, and this is kind of a neat crust in that it is vegan. We're not using any butter here. This is an oil crust. And so with the oil crust, you're going to want to use a neutral oil. I have a couple here, safflower and canola, and these are both good neutral oils. They're not going to carry flavor with them. You can use olive oil. It will give a little bit of olive flavor, but if you like that, olive oil would work as well. And so you're going to need 2/3 of a cup of oil. And I'm just going to use a combination of these two, kind of like half and half, canola and safflower, just because I have both of them, and why not? They're both good light oils. So we've got that, our 2/3 cup of neutral oil. And to start, you want some all-purpose flour, and we're going to use 2½ cups. So when you're measuring your flour, you always want to level it. And I'll just level it with the bag, and you can get a pretty good level measure that way. So we're going to go 2½ cups of flour. And then we're going to put 1 teaspoon of salt. So you want to do the crust first because we're going to let it chill a little bit, but really short chill. You really only need about 15 minutes. If it goes longer and even, overnight, that's fine also. So now we're going to add our teaspoon of salt. And a fork is the tool for this crust. So go ahead and fork in the salt. And then another thing you can do before you get into the crust is make some ice cold water, and that's simply a bunch of ice cubes, and then put it in a measuring cup or some sort of container with some water. And then you have your nice ice cold water, and you're going to want 7 tablespoons of the ice water. So for this recipe, we're going to start with the water, and I usually will go 4 tablespoons sort of drizzled around. So that's the first of 4 of 7. And you just want to moisten the flour, and it's going to start looking a little crumbly. So like crumbs. And then we'll go for the next 3. And again, just evenly drizzle. So there's 3 more tablespoons. Mix that in nicely.
While you're doing that, Chef Sam, we did have a question about the salt, whether it's kosher salt and what the differences are, what you would recommend for this recipe.
Yeah, so with salt, I pretty much for cooking and baking, I use kosher salt. And kosher salt breaks down easier. Kosher salt is a salt that's already been baked. or heat treated, so it opens up molecularly. And so when it's added into a recipe, it breaks down a lot quicker than say like table salt and something like that. So when you're actually cooking something and tasting like a sauce, something like that, it's a lot easier to control your salt. It won't just sneak up on you and suddenly be over salted. So it's a great, and also for that matter, it's easier to handle. Like if you're doing pinches, you can really feel the grains of the salt. So this is kosher salt I'm using, and I like it in baking as well. And so that's what we're using here. And then I have the 2/3 cup of oil. And so this now, I'm just going to kind of drizzle in and mix. Well, I drizzle. And again, you're just looking for getting all the flour nice and saturated. So this is just a real, we call this a rustic tart. And this style of tart, fruit tart, is sometimes also referred to as a galette. And a galette can also be a dish made with crepes, so it kind of has a couple meanings, but this is definitely a rustic recipe in that it's going to come together really quickly. And there was an article once upon a time in Bon Appetit about this style of tart, and they said the beauty of these lie in their imperfections. And so therefore, you can really just take it easy. This is like a fun summer time, or any time really. This with the berries and that we're using here, is towards summer, but you can put any sorts of fruits you like in this crust. And you could even go savory with this. So that you can see, I just stirred that stuff together till it sort of came together into a ball. I like to give this a couple kneads, and usually, you don't want to handle tart or pie crust a lot because it will start to form gluten, and that's where you get toughness. With this crust though, we're going to knead it. You can knead it a couple times just to make sure everything's nice and mixed. And also we want a little bit of that stretch, a little bit of that strength, because this is going to be holding everything together. So it's okay if it has a little bit of bind to it. Now,
And Chef Sam, we did have a question
Yes.
from Ruby, wondering if she could use half wheat and half white flour.
Yes, you could use half wheat and half white. You could use gluten-free flour for that matter. And always like something like this with gluten-free flour, there's like the 1-to-1 flours can work, or any combination of flours you like, oat flours, and oat flour would be a good one in here. But yeah, you might have to adjust the content of the oil and water a little bit, but you can just go in slow and you can adjust as you need it. So at this point, you want to wrap this in like some plastic wrap and chill it. And as I mentioned before, it just takes about 15 minutes or so. And I have a previously chilled piece here. So what I like to do is I'll wrap the dough ball in the plastic wrap, and then I kind of press it into a disc type form, just because that helps facilitate rolling it out a little easier when you get to this point. So for the rollout, we're going to go ahead and have a couple sheets. Or let's hold on. we actually, at this point, we should put together our filling, right? Because, and so we'll let this continue to chill. So your dough is chilling, and this is a good opportunity to put the filling together. So you want a big bowl, and then we're going to go ahead and zest and juice 1 lemon. So to zest, I just like to use one of these microplane deals, and I'm going to just go right into the bowl with it. And so you want to zest before you juice because it's much easier that way. And I always give the lemon a good rinse before I zest it. And so the zest, this lemon peel, has all these great citrus oils in it, and the citrus oil really gives a lot of lemon flavor to the dish. And then to juice, just cut that in half. And then I have the handy citrus squeezer deal here. This thing really juices well.
And Chef Sam, we had a question about freezing the dough, and if so, how long does it need to come to room temperature to use it, from Karen?
Yeah, Karen, you could definitely freeze the dough, and then, you know, I can't say exactly how long it will take to thaw out, but, you know, I'd say, you know, it should thaw within an hour to 2 hours. You should be good to go. And that's, I'd estimate, you know, but as soon as it's nice and workable, you know, it's ready to go. Okay, so here we have our lemon zest and lemon juice, the juice and zest of 1 lemon. And now we're going to go ahead and add some sugar. So this isn't an overly sweet recipe. It's a really nice recipe to highlight the natural sweetness of the fruits you're using. So it's great to use fruits that are in season, ripe fruits. You know, stone fruits are really nice towards into the summertime when we get the peaches and nectarines and stuff like that. You could do a stone fruit version. Really anything that you come across, you know, if you come across good deals and on fruit, you know, this is a good way to utilize a lot of fruit. Okay, so there's brown sugar and white sugar in there. And just go ahead and whisk that together a little bit.
So Chef Sam, could you use frozen fruit if it wasn't in season?
Yeah, you know, you can use frozen fruit. And the only thing to kind of be aware with frozen fruit is sometimes the frozen fruit kind of releases a lot of water. And so things can get extra juicy, but that's all right. This is going to juice a little bit anyway. This is a beautiful mess, really, once it gets baking and all that, but that's fine, right? It's, again, it's something to throw together, pop in the oven, and then eat it. But because it's not really sweet, it's a great foil for like some ice cream or whipped cream, something like that. Goes nicely with it. Okay, so here we have kind of our maceration liquid. So,
And we did have a question
Yeah.
from Ruby. Instead of regular sugar, can you use monk fruit? She's watching her sugar intake.
yeah, Ruby, you can use any sort of sweetener you like. You know, and definitely you can adjust this to the level of sweetness you like. It's really just, you could use honey, you know, as well, but monk fruit is a good one. Yeah, any kind of sweetener you like will work great here. All right, so now we're going to need 5 cups of fruit. So here's some strawberries that I sliced, whole and sliced. And we have a few of these really lovely hood strawberries that we have here in Oregon for a short time this time of year, early summer. And these are just fabulous. And they're small, but they're very sweet. Really quick to hull the strawberry. You just take a paring knife is good to work with strawberries, and just pop off the stem, and then you can just slice across. And as always with the knife skill stuff, you're kind of creating a flat base here to work, and then you can slice really easily. So that's 1 cup of strawberries. And let's see what else. We have a really beautiful blackberries here. So I'm going mostly for berries on this one. I am going to add some apple and pear. And the apple and pear are nice because it texturally, it gives a little variety, but also the apple and pear carry a lot of pectin with them. And because we don't really have any binder going into this, pectin, we're looking for the natural pectins in the fruit to sort of hold this together. All right, so there's our 3rd cup of fruit, and that is a cup of raspberries. So we're up to 3. And then here's some nice blueberries. And this will be our 4th cup, the 4th cup of fruit. And now for the 5th cup, let's utilize the apple and the pear. So one neat way to get into an apple that I like to do is to kind of cut around the core. So my first slice, again, gives me that level surface. And then I can just go right around the core, and you end up with a lot of apple to work with. And then I'm just going to slice across. And then with something like this, I want the apple slices to be kind of similar to the berry slices, just for even cooking and easy eating. Now, so I'm just going to slice across and then in half. And that is almost a cup already. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut from the side of the pear, missing the core, and then same sort of deal lengthwise. And then I'm going to cut the pear in some smaller pieces. And I'm leaving the peel on. I've rinsed these fruits, but a lot of that great pectin is in the peel. Pectin is what holds the fruit together, and you'll find there's most concentrated pectin in the core and in the peel.
Chef Sam, if you were to make a savory version, what might you use?
Boy, a savory version. You could use like some soft cheeses might be nice, mixed with some herbs and some, you could kind of par cook some veggies, maybe grilled or steamed a little bit, ready for roasting. Yeah, I mean, and like kind of, you could almost treat it like things you might put on a pizza could go in it. But really, there's no limit to what you can stuff in a crust like this. It's a blank canvas. Okay, so maceration is just when you're letting fruit sit in a solution or just even tossed with sugar. And here we have the lemon juice and sugar. And so you can let it sit for a few minutes, ideally. 5-10 minutes is good. And that's your maceration. So while that is macerating, now is a good opportunity to roll out our tart crust. So now I will grab the chilled dough. And so here that is, and then I have 2 sheets of parchment, and I'm just going to roll the dough out between these parchments. So a rolling pin is nice for this. And I'm just going to go and try to make a circle, but again, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. We want, this is a fun recipe because there's no way you can make it perfect. So it will be rustic. So we want to go pretty thin, you know, quarter to half an inch. And I'm working off of a sheet pan, like a half sheet pan. So I know I need it to fit on that. So that's kind of my template. Something that will kind of fit within that. I can go a little bit over because I'm going to be folding the edges over the fruit. So you're creating a little packet for the fruit.
Sam, we have a good question. If you want to use fruit with pits, such as peaches and plums, what binder works best given the high level of liquid in this type of fruit?
Yeah, so you know, this will juice out, and the berries juice a lot. So if you do want to bind it and you don't want it to juice out a ton, you can toss your fruit in a little bit of cornstarch, just enough to coat, or just flour, you know, and if it, you know, or any sort of starch, tapioca starch would work. Just something that will kind of absorb that moisture, and then those things thicken as well. So yeah, a lot of times in a pie or tart like this, I'll just toss a little cornstarch or flour in there. And again, it's just enough for a light coating, and that'll usually do the trick. But again, with this recipe, we really just wanted it to be very super simple, and it's, you know, something you can throw together with a minimum amount of ingredients. But you know, yeah, you're welcome, of course, to bind it up a little bit, and it's not a bad idea, because those juices, as you'll see with my final product, they really do get all over the place. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good circle, right? And so we want to keep the bottom piece of parchment here. I'm going to use this to put the crust onto my sheet pan. And I can just simply slide it on like that.
And we did have a question about the crust, about
Yeah.
what thickness are you looking for? Alice would like to know.
Yeah, so Alice, we are going for a quarter to a half inch, somewhere in there. It's fairly thin. And again, you know, what will dictate it is sort of, you want your fruit to be piled in the middle, leaving about an inch, at least an inch of room around, so that you can fold in on the tart a little bit. And then I just use like a cut measure to scoop, and I want to make sure to really get that fruit all coated with the juice, the maceration juice, the lemon and sugar there. But you know, we also will pour it over at the end. And this is definitely a hearty 5 cups, which will make for a fat tart, and that makes it a little trickier to fold, but I think it'll be worth it for all that nice fruit inside, right?
Question, will the fruit shrink down quite a bit during baking?
The fruit will shrink down. And so that's why we have such a nice big pile, because we want to keep, maintain some volume with this guy as it cooks. So yeah, the fruit's going to shrink, and with that, there's the inevitable juicing. So I'm just going to position this fruit into the center, and then you just want to go around, and this you just kind of make some folds as you work your way around. And again, this is not it's not an exacting kind of pastry here. So you can really just flop that crust over and then kind of tuck it in. And I put a little bit of pressure just kind of to make sure everything's settled. And then you can see there's a few folds there, and that's it. And now we can do an egg wash if you choose. You can do an egg wash. You can do if you're doing this vegan, you can use like a nut milk, soy milk, something like that. It will make a really good wash. You can use water. You can use milk or cream, really anything to sort of moisten it. All these washing liquids will give you different finishes, just slightly different browning capabilities and stuff like that. The egg, we're using the egg because we have eggs, and this is a good opportunity to point out that at Basics we have our own chickens laying the Gwendolyn's eggs, and they're just really great eggs. So anytime I have an opportunity to use an egg, I'm going to do it. So I'm going to make an egg wash. And so with the egg wash, it's handy to add a little water in there. You can even just use like the egg yolk and add like 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of water. It makes a good wash, or the whole egg. And again, just a little bit of water. And the water helps smooth out the egg and makes it a little easier to apply. Otherwise, the proteins in the egg white can make things a little bit gloopy. So just a tad of water is kind of helpful for this. And then you need a brush, and I have one right here. And I have here some sparkling sugar, and this is just this really nice coarse sugar, which is great for sprinkling on pastries and cookies and things like that. Crystal sugar. It's sometimes called, or sanding sugar sometimes, but sparkling sugar. And it's just nice big grains of sugar. And so you just want to kind of coat all the surfaces of the tart crust, which are exposed, and that will make the sugar stick. And then you can just sprinkle the sugar around. And this sugar also makes a nice, as it bakes, it gets a little bit crispy, so you get a little crunch in there. And I'm just sprinkling a little over the top as well. Okay, so there's your tart. You'll have your oven preheated to 375 degrees. And this tart can take up to an hour to bake. As we talked about earlier, the fruit, you want to see some shrinkage. You want that fruit to get tender, and you want your your crust to get brown, golden brown and kind of crispy, of course. So those are the things you're looking for. Depending on your oven, it could go quicker. But I don't think it's going to take more than an hour. So I'll put this in the oven. And after some time, here we go. And here we are with a rustic tart that looks like an explosion of color. And you can see we got some juice that came out, but I have a nice color here. And I'm just going to cut it right on the sheet pan here and have a look at it in a minute. But first I'm going to put together a little bit of whipped cream. So I have a bowl chilling.
While you're grabbing that, Chef Sam, Gail
Yeah.
would like to know, is there any difference if you would cook it in a convection oven, and could you cook it in a convection oven?
Well, that is exactly what you're looking at here. I did cook I only have a convection oven right now in this kitchen. And for some baked stuff, it's challenging because it's a convection oven. It's right here. And it's called Turbo Chef, and it is crazy. Like you can't turn the convection off, and so it's really great for like roasting stuff quickly. So my tart here in this oven only took half an hour, and it just went for it. And so you can see it got a little bit darker on top quickly. So convection for baking. Most things to me is not ideal. It's good for some, maybe like crackers and some crispy cookies, stuff like that. But like muffins, it'll just blow the tops over. This convection is particularly powerful. So that's how all this color happened really quickly. But yeah, you can use a convection and just expect it to go a little quicker. And I don't think there's going to be your convection oven is probably not as crazy as this convection oven. So you'd be fine. And again, it's neat because it does speed things along. And it will tend to give you a nice crispy crust, which is, that's the plus side of convection.
And along those lines, Chef Sam, we did have a couple of questions actually. How could you store the tart and for how long? And another person wondered could you wrap it in some way to prevent the juices from coming out, like put it in foil or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, this crust that I have baked here really juiced a lot because it was a little bit of a drier crust. For whatever reason, I added maybe a touch too much flour, so it left a couple gaps, and then through those gaps, I really juiced out. But if you like the one I just made. I'm expecting that this one is not going to juice out too much because it's nice, and you can see it's nice and smooth all around, and that's really what you're looking for. But still, like where there's a fold like here, you might want to juice out. So yes, you could put kind of a foil around it and up a little bit, and that could be helpful. I'd worry a little bit about the crust not maybe cooking all the way through though, because you really want the heat to get there. Really, you can, having the parchment down will help with cleaning your pan and so forth. But the juice is almost, it's kind of just part of it. But hopefully, if your edges are sealed, and that's another thing is you can check those places where you have your folds and you can pinch them closed, and that could help a little bit with the juiciness. But probably some juices are going to escape. So for the whipped cream, here's another shout out to one of our companies here at Basics is the Lulabelle's dairy stuff. And this is a really nice heavy whipping cream. And so it's not homogenized. So you have to give it a little shake to get all the nice creaminess into it there. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of that into my chilled bowl and then a bit of powdered sugar and a touch of vanilla extract and then a whisk, and we'll whisk up some whipped cream. And again, you know, I think this tart would be really nice with some simple little bit of ice cream or something. Could be good. But whipped cream is a nice complement to it for sure. And this should whip up pretty quickly. There we go. So there's some whipped cream. And that cream really whips nicely, right? Okay. So now we can plate this. So of course, you know, for service, if you have a nice big platter, you could just plop this on a platter, put it on your table and serve it up like that. Or you can cut it like I'm going to do just off the sheet pan here and then put it on plates.
And while you're doing that, Chef Sam,
Yeah.
Ruby was just double checking. So will the bottom of the crust brown too, or does it become soggy because of the fruit juices?
Oh, well, your bottom of your crust is going to be crispy, like I'm touching it right now, and it's nice and crisp. Yeah, the fruit juice is mainly, and the fruit juice, you know, that leaks out just hardens up. So if any does get down there, it's just going to be like a delicious little sticky layer. But your crust should, most of the juice is around the outside. So underneath there, it should be fine and crisp. But yeah, let's have a look, right?
Yeah, and a couple people asking about the juice, wondering, Tony would like to know, could you drain the juice from the fruit before putting it in the tart and make a coulis, which I love this idea, with the juice and use it on the tart and the ice cream as a sauce? And May wondered, would you cover the fruit with dough before baking?
Well, yeah, you could do all of those things, and that would, you know, those are more things to do. And again, this is just a really simple recipe, the rustic fruit tart. So, you know, you can definitely make it more complicated. I think those ideas would work. If you're covering the top, if it's a juice issue with covering the top, you still might get some leakage out of the sides. And then it would be kind of more almost like a traditional pie. And then the coulis idea is neat. Yeah, it's, you know, it just depends how much time you want to spend on this. As it is, it's just a really quick and simple dish that can be thrown together easily, and you get, you know, that imperfect beauty that that everyone is after, right? It's rustic. So let's have a look. So there it is, you know, and it plates really nicely, and it has a lot of pretty colors, and I bet it tastes pretty good too. So let's check it out. Yeah, the crust You can see it's cooked in the bottom. It's not soggy or anything like that. And very nice. Again, not overly sweet. You can really taste all those different fruits in there, and quite lovely. Oh yeah, and then someone was asking about storing it. I just put it on a platter, or you could leave it on the sheet pan like this, cover it, and put it in the refrigerator, and you're good for 3 days. I think. I mean, again, it is that juicy fruit, so things will start to get soggy eventually. You could remove it and put it onto a platter, cover it, and again, 3 days or so, you'll have a nice tart to eat for that time. Or you might just, it's so delicious, you might eat it all at one go. So that's what I've got for you on the rustic fruit tart. Please give it a go if you're not in the middle of it right now. And come check out our Basics markets to get your ingredients. We have lots of beautiful berries right now. And then of course, apples and pears are available. Ooh, maybe put some, what we did, I was thinking, if you joined me for the rhubarb class, rhubarb cake a little while ago, my rhubarb plant is now really big, and I was thinking, a little rhubarb would be nice in here, and that'd also give it some neat color, as well as a little sour flavor. Anyway, thank you for joining us. If you have any additional questions or comments, email us at letscook@basicsmarket.com. And yeah, please come check out our markets for your shopping needs, and check out the website basicsmarket.com for more recipes, cooking ideas, tips, and previous classes. Thank you so much. Happy cooking.